Now the next topic I wanted to talk about was it's gonna be the MVP race, right? So the MVP with Jokic and Embiid, right? So this is gonna be like the first time in a long time where in center is gonna be like a front runner for like MVP, right? I mean, you can say that Giannis is basically a center, right? I mean, he's a power forward center who's just runs around the court and dunks on you like 50%, 60% of the time. And now you have these, pseudo stretch bigs now when it comes to Jokic and Embiid. In my opinion, the winner of the MVP race should be Jokic, just due to the fact that he's averaging basically the same numbers of Embiid percentages wise, as well as playing in a more tougher conference. I mean, Embiid is leading the win rate right now the for the NBA, and so basically the argument against Embiid is that he's playing a less difficult conference. He's been out for a couple weeks for his high sprained ankle, and his team is still relatively winning, with hello Ben Simmons, and their percentages are still the same. Like, I believe, are they like averaging basically 50, 40, 90, right? I mean, except Jokic is basically averaging almost a triple double, right? It's insane. If he averages a triple double on top of that, like undisputed, he's gonna win the MVP, or it should be undisputed. But you know, what do I know? I guess when it comes to MVP narrative, right? I mean, the the knock on the Jokic would be like the standings, right? Embiid is number one in the NBA and is number one in the East, while Jokic is number four, right? I mean, you don't really talk about the star players in the top three of those teams. Like, let's see. Number one is the Jazz, right? You don't see Donovan Mitchell in any of the MVP standings. Number two will be the Suns. You don't see Devin Booker or Chris Paul in any of the MVP standings. There should be a lot of praise for Chris Paul, right? But Chris Paul is the god point guard. Number three, you got Kawhi Leonard. No one's talking about Kawhi Leonard. No one's talking about Paul George. And Paul George averaging basically 50, 40, 90 as well in the sense. He's averaging the sense of that, or maybe he's like high 80s or something in the free throw percentage. But even with Kawhi playing back to backs, like there's no narratives for Kawhi being MVP, even though like the knock on Kawhi not being MVP was he load managed. Number four is Jokic. Number five, LeBron James. And LeBron James is not winning the MVP. No chance. Dude's been out for like 4 weeks. The playoffs is nearing right now. Ain't no way it's gonna happen, right? Then you got the East, right? You got James Harden, who should be in the front. He should have been, in top three of the MVP rankings as well because of what he did. Because the Nets didn't really have any depth, right? KD, Kyrie's been in and out. James Harden's the Iron Man in the NBA. He basically plays all the games, right? And that's why he usually burns out in near the post game. I mean, not post game, but the post run in the playoffs, where his percentages drop down. Then you got Giannis, voter fatigue, and they're not gonna give Giannis, the MVP unless he truly puts up even better numbers than he put up last season. I mean, last season he was putting up historical numbers to the point where he's being compared to Will Chamberlain, and it ain't gonna happen, right? I mean, just think about that. Number four, who's even number four in the East? I can't really put up my can't really remember right now. I mean, who's number seven in the West? Is it Blazers? Blazers number 6 or number 7. I mean, Damian Lillard is getting praise as well for keeping the Blazers afloat, but I don't think it's gonna. I don't think he has a chance, but he'll be in the conversation, right? You should be in the conversation. Luka Doncic is basically averaging the same numbers that he did last season. It's just that the Mavs have been kind of in and out as well, and he started pretty bad in the first couple of weeks. Like his percentages were so bad, but now he's upping his percentages. His 3-point percentage is like about 30%, right? I mean that's like but it's respectable. I guess you could say. I mean, the league average is always gonna be 35%, but I mean at least he's willing to take it, right? So you can't really just leave him open and whatnot. Shout out to his game winner against Memphis, dude. That was crazy. Whether it's luck or not, you can basically just give it to him. The boy wonder, is for real. Just kicking myself, like, why didn't I pick up his rookie card when I was on that train? I was like, dude, this guy's gonna be so good. This guy's an MVP, Finals MVP, all at the age of 19, and he's come to NBA, right? This is a different time. I mean, you think about it. I mean, he was the MVP, Finals MVP, all at the age of 19. I mean, when you think about it, each MVP of the last couple of years, haven't they gone to a foreigner so far? I mean, just Giannis 2 times, and who was the MVP before him? Actually, you know what? Scrap that. That might be wrong, but so 2 times is for a foreigner in Giannis, and now it's gonna be another international player, right? It's supposed to show that times have changed. Times have changed to the point where, dude, people want foreign international players, right? Because back in the day, the foreign international players were always seen as soft, but fundamentally sound players, right? You're very finesse players, where you can basically punk on those players with physicality. That's why they always struggled with physicality back then. But now, I guess, the NBA is taking out changes when it comes to defense, that they're taking out the physicality part. I mean, think about it, right? That was basically their knock back in the day. And now as they continue to continue developing their fundamentals, and their team basketball plays and whatnot, compared to the American players, right, who are basically just physical specimens and just basically just athletes, where they can be fundamentally sound and they're just relying on their athleticism, right? Compared to the foreigner players who were not as athletic but fundamentally sound, passing, all the stuff, shooting, intangibles, everything else is great. So I mean, you're starting to see a shift right now when it comes to just way more international players coming in the NBA, from what I see. And it's crazy, dude. I mean, you think about it, this whole European invasion, but not just European invasion, right? You got this whole international invasion coming into the NBA, in a sense where, the top players and all-stars are just more becoming just foreign players, right? You got, obviously, Jokic, Embiid, Giannis. You got Sabonis, who's an all-star. You got Gobert. You got Porzingis, Luka Doncic. Ben Simmons from Australia. Jamal Murray from Canada. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in OKC from Canada. You got Theo Maledon from France. Killian Hayes got drafted. I mean, it's becoming more and more of an international play, but it's becoming more of an international game, and it's being more represented by international players. So, that's just a great thing to see, right? NBA is trying to expand to the point where it's becoming more of a global sport, right? Not just in the sense of it being a global, global kind of thing, but it's becoming more and more of a global sport, not just, just being a global broadcasting sport, right? Because, like, think about it, right? In the 90s, when Michael Jordan was still in the NBA, his international fame was all over the globe, right? One of the most famous athletes to ever grace, sports in general, right? Basketball was not really seen as more of a kind of, how should I say this? It's not a representative of, American sports, right? When you think of America, you think of baseball and football, right? You don't really think about basketball too much. They're really more known for their football, and the TV's ratings showed for it, right? And then when Jordan came, basketball became a lot more competitive against, football in regards to TV ratings. Unheard of, right? And there's one guy that made basketball an international global presence game. And then it kind of died off, but, in a sense, it still kind of continued because, China loves, basketball. They just need, like, their representation. And they don't really have a player of that sort yet, so, just wait until the NBA gets, a Chinese player that's actually gonna be an all-star, right? I mean, the last one was, like, Yao Ming? And that was, like, over, 10 years ago, so, dude, this is great for the NBA to have more international representation, right? Jokic probably will win MVP. He is the modern day version of Sabonis. If Sabonis actually came without his double ACL injuries or whatever the Russians were making him do when he dominated the U.S. basketball team in the Olympics, to the point where, the U.S. was like, nah, man, we're not using any college players anymore. We're using NBA players, to stack the deck. And that's how the steamroll happened from there on then, right? But, I can see the argument for, Embiid, obviously because of records, but I just think that, Jokic is putting up a historic performance and season for a center that, we haven't seen yet. He's averaging the same percentages as Embiid. He's doing it near as a triple-double. When he's on the floor, the Nuggets are just have a positive net rating, right? When he's off the floor, they're like so bad, right? And then his all-star playing mate in Jamal Murray is done for the season, right? So that should be up in the narrative as well for Jokic, right? Like, he has now is Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., who else? Will Barton. Like, I mean, the list goes on, right? Like, all these players cannot really make up for the presence of Jamal Murray. I mean, with Jamal Murray and Jokic on the floor, like their efficiency becomes like way, way better. And when Murray's off the floor with Jokic, like, everything takes a dip. So, Jamal Murray's a very good impact player. So now that he's gone, like, whoever picks up the slack, it's not really going to compensate for the lack of presence of Jamal Murray. So, Jokic is doing his thing, and, dude, he has my vote, but, narrative-wise, like, people want to give it to, LeBron James still, probably. Some people want to possibly give it to Giannis, but, dude, he's the front runner. It's just selling, the clickbait right now. I'm just thinking that, dude, there's no way this dude doesn't win, right? And, good luck to the Denver Nuggets. I'm pretty high on Michael Porter Jr. And when was the last time? I don't think Denver has ever had an MVP in their franchise, right? So, number 15, when it comes to, Carmelo Anthony, I don't think he's getting retired, that number. that number is going to stay, for Jokic, who's probably will end up being the greatest Nuggets player of all time.